We'll get started with some introductory comments. My name is Marcy Scott. I'm a consultant for the district and facilitating this evening's meeting. Thank you all for being on tonight, and I welcome everyone to our virtual community meeting on planning and community input for the Los Altos Hills County Fire District's Successor Strategic Plan. The purpose of this meeting is to gather input as the Ad Hoc Subcommittee develops a plan and timeline for the Commission's preparation of a Successor Strategic Plan. Before we jump into the agenda, I would just like to mention a ground rule and just go around for quick introductions. If you would like to speak under agenda item 3, which is community input, you may use the raise hand feature to signal your interest in speaking. And then once you have spoken, if you don't mind, please mute yourself. That helps reduce background noise. So let's have a few introductions. And if you'd like to wave or have a brief comment, we have Commissioner Price on the line. Hello, good. And we have Commissioner Spreen.
Yep, I'm here.
Excellent, thank you. And Commissioner Carr.
Yes, I'm here.
Very good, thank you. And General Manager Logan.
Yes, I'm here.
Our logistics expert, Sarah Henricks.
Also here.
Thank you. And Emergency Services Manager, Gluhan.
Yes, I'm here, thank you.
Excellent. And we have some members of the public present, and if you would like to just mention your area of interest when I call your name, and if you just are here to observe, that's great too. So I'll just go through the line very quickly. I see Eugenia.
Hello, I'm Eugenia Rendler. I'm the Managing Director of the Santa Clara County Fire Safe Council, and I'm just here to help. We went through this process very recently and offer any support that we can.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Next, we have Glass. Is that Chief?
Yeah, good evening, Brian Glass. I'm not sure how to change my name to get all the
Oh.
Good evening, Brian Glass, Santa Clara County Fire Department, Assistant Fire Chief.
Thank you. We have Bob Frankel.
Hi, you can't see me, but I'm here. So I'm
That's
Bob Frankel, and I represent Congregation Beth Am, which is located on Rastradero Road in Los Altos.
Very good, thank you. We have Neil Catton.
Hi, I'm just a resident in the area and wanted to monitor the process.
Very good, thank you. And let's see. Excellent. Well, thank you all. So on agenda item 1A, tonight's meeting, we invite the community to speak and provide input to the subcommittee for consideration as they prepare a proposed scope of work to develop a successor strategic plan. The district interacts with many agencies, nonprofits, and community groups, and all are important partners. Input from these groups, as well as community members, is very important. We thank all who are attending tonight and future meetings for their input. Next, on agenda item 1B, I will ask Special Projects Consultant Henricks to describe for us the draft proposed work plan and timeline for the Successor Strategic Plan process.
Great. So I'm just sharing my screen here. Hopefully everyone can see it. Let me know if you can't.
Yeah, looks good. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, what we have here is our draft work plan. This is a living, breathing document. And, you know, this is kind of what Marcy and Jay and I have come up with in our discussions. And, you know, it's living and breathing. So we really want your input. It's going to change kind of on the fly as we're discussing. I'm sure that there will be many changes to it. But basically, it's just a kind of a rough timeline of the community meetings, which is what we're in now. And this is really just the process to figure out how we should develop this successor strategic plan. You know, we have this great plan from 2015 to 2020, but really we want to talk about what are we going to do after 2020. So that's kind of what this goes through. So we have the meeting dates here, an overview of what we're expecting to discuss at each of the meetings, some tasks and deliverables. And basically we just go through until September 15th, where we present a draft, a final draft scope of work to the full commission and hopefully get their approval or their feedback. And that's going to include a number of elements, which Marcy will talk about later. Then immediately following that meeting, we'll have some stakeholder engagement. Again, considering the restrictions on social gatherings, there's going to be some a little bit of a strategic effort here to really make sure that we're engaging people remotely. And then we will have some strategic plan meetings, again via Zoom, where we'll all come together and discuss the feedback that we've received from our stakeholders. We'll do a SWOT analysis and hopefully identify some primary goals for the successor strategic plan. And all of this will culminate with the final adoption of the plan in November at the District Commission's regular meeting. Again, living, breathing document, going to change all the time, and I'm happy to hear any of your input.
Great. Thank you, Sarah.
Sure.
And in terms of deliverables for tonight, we would like to gather any community input that is provided. And secondly, we'd like to review initial draft materials for consideration by the subcommittee and community. And third, we'd like to have a subcommittee discussion about the successor strategic plan process and provide guidance to staff with regard to the materials and the timeline, such that a proposal can be finalized for the commission meeting on September 15th. So that is the roadmap for tonight and for the near future. Moving on to agenda item number 2, which is presentation of proposed scope of work. We have a first draft document here, and initially we proposed 5 bullets to describe really the intent of this process. And that is to build upon the foundation, which is the existing 5-year strategic plan. The district is in a different position today than in 2015. And so how the district moves forward, given the uncertainty and the environment of rapid change that we're in, is very important. And then the second part of this document is a description of the process that Sarah summarized. And you can see in item number 1, it references 2 community meetings. And the first date says the 7th, but that should be the 6th because that's tonight's meeting. And then the following Thursday, next week on the 13th, we are planning to hold the second community meeting at 1:30 p.m. With that said, what I would like to do is turn over to Commissioner Price to describe for us your experience in the process in developing the first strategic plan. Oh, you're
Commissioner
muted.
Price, you're muted.
Yeah. Oh. Oh, it looks like you're muted still, Commissioner.
There, is that doing it? Did that undo it?
Excellent.
Yes.
Very good.
Now what? Are we unmuted?
Yes.
Somebody's
Yes, you're
frozen.
unmuted. We can hear you.
Okay, are we okay? Okay.
Yes.
Well, welcome everybody. I'm glad that we're all able to get together. I was surprised at this community meeting, rather that's because that we can't just be our little closed meeting because we had to go public. Is that correct, Jay?
Yes, that is correct. This is a
Can you hear
public
me?
community meeting to gather input. So we'd like
Right, okay, that's fine. I think the very first thing I would say in my input is that we should look at what we accomplished in the last 5 years with the original strategic plan, do some sort of an assessment. Have we achieved all those goals that we set out in the past 5 years? And in a quick review of just going through, I think we actually have done quite a good job in achieving and not letting things just sit and gather dust on the counter. So we achieved, if you go back and look, and thank you for sending that out, Sarah, that you sent out the pages that mattered. But basically, goal 1 was pretty much achieved. Goal 2 was pretty much achieved. And I would like to hear Roger and Janice also contribute to that, to feel that there was, as a basis, this strategic plan really allowed us to move forward and to have a general manager appointed. We did quite a few things in terms of the staffing needs, and most certainly have looked at technological needs for the website and the addition of all the changeover that we've been through with the addition of having Captain Gluhan come on to fill in for where we left us sort of vacant for a period of time with no Mike Sanders to run the CERT program. So we've really, one of our main goals was to encourage the fulfillment of the CERT program. Are you able to understand me okay while I'm speaking?
Yes. Sounds good.
Okay, so that's kind of where I'm at right now. I think going forward, we want to remain effective and sustainable. And because of the current audit situation, there's so many changes going on right now that my recommendation, and I hope we come to this, will be for a short-term goal for the next couple of years, rather than another 5-year role or strategic plan. There's whole changing role of government right now in terms of many, many different things that we see going on at the local level and certainly at the state level. So we're going to be, it's going to be transformative for many of us working in this whole field where we have community engagement. So that would just be my suggestion, that we consider a shorter term going forward. And that's about all I pardon me, have, and would look forward to hearing what Roger and Janice have to say. Thanks.
Very good.
That makes sense to me, that we don't try to extend beyond 2 years.
Yeah, and I agree. It's 2 to 3 years makes sense. We're going through a lot of change right now. And so 5 years ago, there were a lot of big steps that were outlined, and we've accomplished all of those, and we've made major changes to the organization. So I think given that we're still in the midst of a lot of change, I think 2 to 3 years makes sense.
Excellent. Very good. I now would invite General Manager Logan just to speak briefly to how you have utilized this strategic plan.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to just talk about the strategic plan really being a formative document and a living document. When I came on in October of 2018 to be the general manager, I knew something about the district, but not a lot. And so I was given, and Duffy, you recall this because you were on the task force that hired the general manager. You and the task force developed a list of activities or objectives that the general manager was supposed to do short-term, mid-term, and long-term. And it was a list of activities. What I did is I took that list and I went back and I mapped each one of them to one of the 5 strategic plan goals. And then I could look at the task as to how they were going to further the strategic plan and what the strategic plan spoke to as to how those tasks should be done. I thought that was very helpful. And when I started doing the general manager's report, I would always attach whatever initiative or program we were taking as to one of those strategic goals. So from a general manager position, it gave me direction as I work with staff. then I used that direction to work with staff. And so the strategic plan became what I called one of the pillars of the district. As I learned then about the district, there was another pillar that emerged, and that was the Community Wildfire Protection Plan, CWPP Annex 4. Critical pillar of protection and prevention for fires. And it also works for emergencies such as earthquake in the community. And then the third pillar was very obvious, and that was the budget. Because without a budget and financial resources, you can't really have any fuel in the engine when it comes to implementing your strategic plan or working through all of the various programs in the CWPP, Community Wildfire Prevention Plan. So that's, to me, from an operational perspective, how important the strategic plan is. So I just wanted to offer that information. Thank you.
Terrific. Moving on to agenda item 2B, which is resource tools and materials. On the district website, there will be a header toward the top on the home page referencing the strategic plan process. And clicking on that link will take you to a page that will have the agenda, the materials that are here this evening, as well as the links to the recording of each meeting. So for members of the community who may not be able to make the meetings, they're able to watch them at a later time. And just real briefly, in tonight's packet, we have 5 documents. The first is the General Manager Staff Report from the last commission meeting on July 28th, giving an introduction to this process. Second is some key pages out of this document, the strategic plan. The full strategic plan is on the website. There's also a link within our packet. Document number 3 is a table, a chart that really is sort of a picture of where the district is right now as an organization. And it shows the primary functional areas and how the staff and the commission are organized. Document number 4 is this chart, which is a draft work plan, and we will talk more about that shortly. And this is really just a first draft to put something out there for consideration so that we can help the subcommittee prepare a proposal for the full commission's consideration in September. And then the 5th document is a 1-pager, a draft scope of work. So that's where the materials will be for this process and available for anyone. So then next on the agenda, we will receive community input, and then following that will be subcommittee discussion. So let's go ahead and move on. If there are any members of the community or anybody participating this evening that would like to provide any input to the subcommittee as we get started on this process.
Hello, I'm Anthony Stolowski with Prisma Hills Water District. I just wanted to, I didn't put my full name on there, so I just wanted to say that I'm here and listening and taking notes.
Very good. Thank you. Do you have any specific interests or comments with regard to the future path for the district?
I'm fairly new and learning a lot right now. We are working on a lot of stuff right now ourselves with being able to have plenty of water on site and our fire hydrant systems that Jay has been working with us on. We did the little video. And backup generators, solar at a couple of our tanks we're working on right now. So we are getting quite a few things together as we speak.
Yeah, I'd like to comment as to how important the partnership is with Parissima Hills Water District. And I think as part of our strategic plan, we have to look strategically and operationally with how we deal with our partners. And they're on the call today. I'm so impressed, and thank you for joining us, Anthony, because we have 540 fire hydrants that sit on top of the Parissima Hills Water District main pipelines. So Parissima Hills transports water for drinking operations to each of the residents. And on top of that sits the fire hydrants and the laterals and the valves that then supply the important water, not to be used for drinking, but for firefighter protection. And that's important for the safety of the residents, for the protection of property, and also for the safety of the firefighters. They have got to know when they get there and they turn on that fire hydrant, it's going to work. And they're going to have the protection around them they need. So Chief Glass, thank you for being here today. But, as partners with us in the district, one of the things we're going to want to know through the SWOT analysis is, are we as a district holding up our end of the responsibilities? Are we doing what you need, Anthony, Chief Glass, Eugenia from Fire Safe Council, Cal Water Systems, the town of Los Altos Hills? We need to do our part and then understand the synergy, what we can do together, and then build that partnership in strategic ways so we better serve the community for a better cost and an efficiency of taxpayers' dollars. So that's how I see it so important. So we're going to approach it at every end possible. We were just out at Parissima Hills. Commissioner Price was there. Commissioner Spreen was there. They were able to see the demonstration of how the fire hydrant sits on top of this water main and all of the property underneath the fire hydrant that belongs to the fire district, and how it integrates and how it works and how collaborative we are. The commissioners turned to me and said, this would make a great video. Well, I think a week and a half later, Anthony, thanks to you, you left all the equipment there. We're back. We've got a videographer, and we just received the first clip today of that video. So we'll be able to express this information to the public via video on our website rather than a bunch of brochures and documents and papers that people have to read. I think that's a very live and living way of communicating with our residents. So thank you for being here, Anthony, and for me being able to say that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you both. Anybody else like to comment?
Can you hear me, Sarah? This is Drew Anderson.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, thank you. I apologize. For some reason I couldn't get the download to work, but it may have been because I had 2 Zoom meetings going at the same time, which we're all into. I just wanted, as many of you know, I'm a co-chair of the Emergency Communications Committee, which is part of the town volunteer staff. And I've been impressed with Jay and her team as to how they've really kind of come elbow to elbow with us and trying to work on things that we can coordinate together as volunteers. I don't know how much of our volunteer activity is integrated into your strategic plan, but I guess as a 20-year volunteer for the town plus, I just want to support the directions that we've been working on, amongst ourselves, and hope that, that might be factored in there someplace. But thank you to Jay and Denise and Victoria and all the rest of you who work so diligently. We appreciate it as volunteers.
Thank you.
Terrific.
It's like Mr. Frankel has a comment.
Great.
Please call me Bob. So I'm from Congregation Beth Am. I serve on the Security and Safety Committee, as well as the Board of Directors. We've just completed an extensive effort over many months to create an emergency operations plan, which covers our plan to prepare for and respond to a variety of emergencies, including fire, earthquake, and others. And, our interest is to make sure that our plan is consistent with what the city is doing, so that in case of an emergency, we know exactly what's going to happen and how we will fit into the larger response happening around.
Okay, very good. We appreciate your efforts in preparing, and we look forward to having you involved in this process. Thank you.
I'd like to speak to that too. I think that what Bob is referring to is another dimension of protection and prevention. It's not just from natural disasters, but it's also having the synergy with our local partners and organizations, so where we can respond for the protection of the community. And I know Captain Gluhan has been working with the faith-based organizations, as has Ann Heppenstall, who's in the city of Los Altos, and Marcia Hovey. So the 3 emergency services managers are working closely with schools, faith-based, the various organizations, to make sure if an event occurs, that we have an understanding of how each of us is going to respond, contacts, and then being able to leverage wherever the disaster or the issue is with where safe refuge may be. And Bob, I really appreciate you being on the phone. You know, Beth is a wonderful organization that we can certainly leverage and hopefully assist you in every way also. I also work with a lot with the police department in the city of Los Altos, and have contacted them over the months, and they're also standing by and very available if that's needed, as well as Foothill College, you know, campus security and police there. So those are all resources and areas that need to be worked in and thought about in the strategic plan process. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm personally, we've been involved with Ann Heppenstall in Los Altos, as well as Marcia Hovey at Cadre. And actually, Ann recently was kind enough to review and provide feedback on our emergency operations. So we appreciate the opportunity to be part of this process and to also be a beneficiary.
Yeah, that's, thank you. Maybe Captain Luhan, do you want to make some comments here? Because I know you've been very involved in this also.
Let's see if you can hear me. I'm having very rough internet today. Can you hear me?
We can. It's always
okay, good.
Wonderful.
Yeah, the minute you did that, my screen had frozen up. So I thought, well, let me leave my video off. So yeah, and again, I appreciate all the partners that are coming in from Bob with the faith-based communities, you know, County Fire, Prisma Hills Water, Fire Safe Council has been Drew is familiar. She's a community member that we're working on evacuation planning. So we're really trying to diversify what we're offering to the residents. We're trying to, you know, in the strategic plan is exactly for this, the gap analysis and where the needs are, and getting those needs identified through various sources and community members and stakeholders is an ideal way for us to make sure that we're addressing and identifying what the needs are and how we can address those. And it's wonderful to have all these different inputs, the brainstorming and the minds and the expertise that's here. I really appreciate everybody showing up today. It's very nice to have everyone here. Thank you.
May I also let Bob know that we're covered by the Santa Clara County Sheriff Department in Los Altos Hills. And Jay, just make sure that they get invited to this next session that we have also. Santa Clara County Sheriff Department. Thanks.
Sure. And just on behalf of the Santa Clara County Fire Department, you know, we stand arm in arm with the district and support their strategic planning efforts. We're, you know, very thankful to be part of this. Our relationship with the district is longstanding, and we look forward to being part of that planning process as we develop how we're going to move forward. I can tell you that we just completed our strategic plan as well, so we'll be bringing that information to this group. And we also chose to do a 2 to 3 year plan because of the changing environment. We had 5-year plans, but I think that is an excellent call by this group to go with a shorter duration plan with the options to extend or change based on what is going on in the current environment. COVID has presented significant challenges. So As always, we look forward to the process. Thank you very much for the inclusion, and we'll make sure we make all the meetings and provide input where needed, and outline the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and any challenges that we face together.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
That's great. Very good. Any other comments? Before we move on? Okay.
I would like to hear from Eugenia. Eugenia, thoughts that you have since we're bubbling all this up right now.
Knew you were going to get me, Jay.
I know it. You're my buddy. I got to get you.
Get out of it.
Is it dinner time yet?
Yeah, Jenny was my last elbow partner when we were in the last meeting that we attended in public.
Right, that's right.
And I could poke her in the elbow, but now I can't. So I have to poke her on with the microphone.
Now we're all just in video land.
Yeah, what do you think?
Well, I think this is great. And I think that the insight to do shorter plans right now is really important. And what the comments that you made about the budget are going to turn out to be very important. We're already seeing, things change from the perspective of the tax base, the cap and trade, quarterly auction amounts have really shifted. So carbon credits are being affected, which affects grants and other departments in the state. So the short term and being more flexible is really prudent, because we're going to have changes to watch, not only in what residents can contribute towards projects and matching and types of, budgets and information that you're going to be able to work with as well.
I agree. And I know when I've talked with Chief Glass and Chief Bowden, one of the things we're looking at is the surrounding communities and how the impact of COVID-19 and the economic decline is going to affect their ability to provide fire protection. And so we're sitting in a very key location as Los Altos Hills County Fire District, because the more support and resources the chief can put into our area, the more outreach he can have into areas such as Palo Alto and their hills in the Arasadero area that may be lacking. So for mutual aid. So strategically, we've got to work with our partners to plan that, because we can predict the economic downturn and how each of us are situated to fill in those gaps. And I want the district to do its part in doing that and be one of those resources available. And so I thank you for bringing this up, Eugenia, because the economic is really going to make a difference in how we do business. Thank you.
I agree. And the other thing to throw out there is to consider your grassroots efforts and your volunteer folks. One of the ironic things that happens when everybody has to stay home is they have a lot more time to work on their individual properties and do other types of volunteering, even though a lot of it's virtual and in small groups. So that aspect of using labor and effort to match and be part of the momentum that keeps you moving forward while the economic base struggles is very viable. We've personally experienced an uptick in people who want to help us accomplish things as volunteers. So that might be a way to expand your influence and accomplishments with people who now have time to do things.
Great.
Very good. Thank you. Okay. Looks like we've been through our list here. Thanks for this input. And let's move on now to item 4 on the agenda, which is to engage in discussion amongst the subcommittee members. And so I'd like to open it up for subcommittee discussion, and we're happy to bring up any of the documents if there are any specific items you'd like to review or focus on. Commissioner Spreen, would you like to begin?
Oh my gosh, well, I think that it sounds like everyone's pretty much agreement for in terms of what we're trying to do, which is a 2 to 3 year, maybe we should nail it down, either 2 years or 3 years at this time. maybe 2 years is the right way to go. Maybe we should try to see what a 2-year one's like. So I'd push for 2 years. Done the 5-year one, and 2-year makes sense. I noticed that in looking at the agenda, there's a timeline we want to make sure that we're okay with, and certainly those seem appropriate. And there's also about the survey that we want to put together. And I don't know if you want to save that for later discussion.
Yeah, why don't we speak about the tools that are available? Of course, typically when we do these processes, we can all be in one room and we have the flip charts and we make lots of notes. So this is a little problematic. We would recommend you consider doing a survey, which allows a whole number of people to provide input. We would, of course, seek comments in text box, and we might also have some rankings and prioritizations. And you could compile all that information and bring it back to the commission for consideration. What we thought is for the next subcommittee meeting next week, we can bring you a draft of some questions that you can review and consider. And we also would like to get a list going of the stakeholders who would receive the survey. So we make sure we capture everybody and we have a good review of those items.
Yeah, that's what's most interesting to me is the question of, I mean, actually everyone who's here today and speaking are good stakeholders. And will be interesting to, I think a survey will help focus their questions about where we've come from and where we're going. I mean, a lot of the focus on the last strategic plan has been about internal status of the district. We use it to guide our hiring and our staffing tree, as well as things like orientation for new commissioners. It's something that's been lost in discussion. So I think that I think I'm looking forward to that tool of the survey of the stakeholders being one, especially with distancing required now, and meeting being possible, being a key element for what we might want to use to ascertain any differences or changes. And I'll also mention that, you know, the state of firefighting has changed quite a bit in the last 5 years, or should I say the knowledge that's been gained in this area has changed quite a bit. You know, the disastrous fires, specifically north of here, have shown us what some different risks are, and that really changes the way we're approaching a lot of our key elements, such as vegetation management and so forth. So I hope that we can, it's gonna be we're putting a lot of weight on a survey to really bring those things out for us, but I think they're really important to do. So to me, that's the most interesting aspect, is getting a survey that captures where we think we're going in the next few years, and taking this current set of stakeholders who are here today and some members of the public who are also interested in the fire district and having them involved in that process. That's what comes to mind for me.
Let me just join in with Roger's comments. Looking back over the last 5 years, and this is Duffy speaking, basically I would like us to sort of analyze those last 5 years. Did we accomplish what we set out to do? And one of the things that occurs to me is that we're going to see in the future going forward, there's going to be many more calls for service, for example. And we know that we have problems on the highways, and we used to anyway, for the fire apparatus to get out there. So that'll be a big thing. But let me just back up 1 second and also say the reason we came about wanting to do the strategic plan 5 years ago was there was a strong understanding that the community of residents didn't know what the fire district was all about, that it lacked any kind of awareness on the part of the residents. Sure, they dialed 911 when they got a fire apparatus out to service them or take care of their needs. But in fact, they didn't really appreciate that we even existed. In fact, we heard that a lot, that basically there wasn't good knowledge about why we even existed. And so I think that one of the questions we may want to ask Marcy in the survey is there a better understanding today of the fire district? We want to be able to assess that. Did we achieve in this 5-year plan that particular goal of making it the district more publicly aware of what the services are? And there's no question that going forward, our future challenges are going to be enormous, that we basically have increased costs of service, increased costs of operation, and the need to, go through all these other issues that everyone is going to be facing with respect to diversity will be something that we're going to have to look at and address. And our aging facilities, right now we know that we don't have suitable office space, for example, at the El Monte Fire Station, and we need to look at that. So there will be those issues that we need to somehow adopt and change and meet those needs. So it's going to be looking forward. I think the best I would say is that we need to look back a little bit and see, did we accomplish what we originally wanted, and measure that in some way, and then looking forward what the future challenges are going to be. And clearly with the CWPP and having Denise Captain Gruhan on board, we've had numerous calls. Even this week I had 2 calls for wanting those services that we used to provide and not able to deliver now. So basically, those are the kinds of things I think we need to evaluate. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Thank you. Commissioner Carr?
Yes. Duffy mentioned the survey to get input from the citizens. And I was just wondering how we would do that.
So we have a survey tool that we can use that goes out through email, and each individual can fill out the survey and provide comments, and then that is compiled back. We can look at individual responses. We can look at the totality of responses. We can evaluate the data components and draw some conclusions, as well as have a number of comments which help us understand what people are directly thinking. So, and probably with a survey such as this, we could get more participation than if we just had one meeting, so really we can identify as many different types of stakeholders and people to participate as we think appropriate.
Yes, that was one of my concerns about a meeting we had to prepare our strategic plan, that it was rather restricted to the number of participants. So I was wondering, if we're going to do it by email, how do we get the email of the people we want to survey?
We can gather that in advance. So we keep a master list of the names and their emails, and some people will volunteer and ask for the survey. And we will also identify other folks who are partners with us, and we'd like to include their feedback.
Okay, but how do we get people's email addresses?
Oh, we can do that. We can ask them. We probably have a whole lot of them also with the folks who we regularly work with.
I have a huge list. I have over probably 30 at we did around, including the people that live in the unincorporated area, Janice, so you know that, okay? We have all those folks that are part of your team up there. So basically we could, those are accessible. And again, I have to say this, that I recently did a SurveyMonkey analysis for one of my club organizations, and it was wonderful. The only problem is that we were limited to so much that we could do, but it was great. You did a good one for our evaluation process when we did the eval, and that was great. And so we're good. We can easily do that survey. If we get enough information, the main thing is going to be those questions that we want to collate, okay, for the survey.
Right.
Fire
And
Safe
by the
Council
way,
can,
I'm very happy to see that Neil Caton is here participating, because he'll be a big asset in that same arena in terms of surveys and information, putting it together. Thanks, Neil, for being here.
and Fire Safe Council can support you with Facebook outreach, Instagram, posting it on our events calendar. The other thing to consider is those of you that are signed up for Nextdoor in all your different neighborhoods and zip codes. That's that'll bring in a different demographic in terms of tenants, renters, the different areas, not just your all your long-term residents. So you'll get different layers there, the services that they may need as smaller homeowners or non-homeowners, things like that.
Okay.
Good, thank you. Commissioner Carr, did you have any other comments or questions?
No, I think that takes care of my questions for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good. I would suggest that we just walk briefly through the proposed timeline and maybe look at the draft scope of work, Sarah, and we could look at the summary of the timeline and see if the commission, the subcommittee has any input. I think it's attachment 5. So here under process, what we have contemplated is to have these 2 community meetings today and next week. And that gives us time to take all the input from the subcommittee, from the public, and to further develop a written proposal for the full commission to consider on September 15th. That's the next regular commission meeting. And we would hope that as a result of that meeting, there is a formal scope of work adopted for this process to prepare a successor plan. Immediately following, should there be adoption of a plan, then we would want to get that survey out and receive input from a wide variety of community members, stakeholders, commissioners, and then we would want to, we were thinking about 2 weeks for that process, and then we would hold 2 commission meetings specifically on the strategic plan. And we had benchmarked dates of October 1st and October 27th as potential commission meetings, special meetings for the strategic plan. And at that first meeting, we would review all of the survey feedback, and we would conduct a SWOT analysis. And that would be looking at the successes, the weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And taking all of that information and starting to develop the successor plan language. And then at the second meeting of the full commission for the strategic plan, look at primary goals and objectives. And we were thinking we could work in breakout rooms. The Zoom allows small groups to work simultaneously in different rooms, and each group could work on a different topic and then come back together as one. And we would take all of that progress and compile that into our new strategic plan document as a draft. And then as a result of that meeting, get a final draft together and take that to the November commission meeting, which would be the 17th, for adoption of a successor strategic plan. So that's an overview of a potential timeline. And I would ask the commission if they have any questions or comments with regards to that.
No, I mean, it seems well laid out. I'm sorry we have to wait till September 15th to get the next meeting, but I guess it does give us time to really get the survey correct. And I hope there's time. My main concern is making sure that the public gets a chance post-survey to get input as well. Those who would show up for a meeting like this one and get a chance to sort of comment on what the results are just as important as the people who actually answer the survey.
Sure. Let's see. So we do have, we have the regular commission meeting on October 20th. We could certainly add an item at the regular meeting also to take input.
I guess the October 1st strategic plan meeting would be one to make sure that, I mean, there's nothing in the notes that mentions that stakeholders at that meeting, and given that that's where the reviewing survey results first comes in, I would think that stakeholders might be interested there.
Yes. Okay.
Roger, can I ask you a technical question?
Sure.
Would it be possible to post the survey online? And
yes, my assumption is we would do that both on our website, because I'm assuming it'll be a sort of a SurveyMonkey type of tool, and as well as on the town's website as well to advertise it and link from there. So we can definitely use all our online available doors to get people to it.
And then can you track it by IP address to where a person's not filling out multiple surveys?
I think, I don't know how much is SurveyMonkey the one we're working with, by the way? I should ask.
That's our plan.
Yeah,
it's pretty easy.
I believe that does, and I could be wrong on this, someone can chime in if they know. I believe that will do what it can to avoid spam, multiple entries. I'd be surprised, if we saw 100 entries that had the same results, we might be suspicious, but I think that I think it will do what it can to prevent that. And in some cases, people might want to do a second one if their family member is on the same home site, they would want to do that anyway. So we might not want to be too constrictive. Only if we see something really fishy would we want to look into that.
I'm thinking we could send invites to those addresses that we know, but then also posted. So by word of mouth, if somebody then wanted to participate, they could just participate online.
Right.
Okay.
Now, I don't know how this was done last time. I don't know if it's anonymous or not. I mean, obviously someone is welcome to respond anonymously, but we can also have a, identify yourself here if you want to be available for further discussion in case we have further questions. And that way it also helps sort of weed out certain credibility if we see any weirdness in the results. But I'm not expecting that to be an issue, but that's another way to help provide a certain amount of responsible responses.
Yeah. I'm sure we can make the name question be mandatory.
If you want to do that, I'm not sure we need to.
Yeah, Roger, the last time, this is definitely, we actually sent out an invitation to probably, I would say 60 people, something like that, 50 to 60 people representing the town of Los Altos Hills, as well as the unincorporated area based on the San Antonio Hills group. And that was an invitation. And I just sent Sarah a copy of what we sent to them on little note. It was a little note paper that we had printed with the invite for them to participate. And then they acknowledged that they would show up, which they did. And of course they had lunch as part of their coming to participate that particular day. So the whole process was very smooth and very nice, and they thoroughly enjoyed it. And we got loads of feedback. So that's all in if you want to go to the original document, it's listed there. And then it indicates that what they felt at the time, the most important thing was the medical emergency response, of course, fire suppression, technical rescue response, fire prevention, disaster preparedness, fire investigation, disaster preparedness training, and then community outreach. So that there were those kinds of things that they addressed, and they also gave us additional input. They were even concerned there was some negative stuff that they provided us feedback on. So Marcy, I would suggest really looking at that again in the original plan to see how that was carried out. So we have all the little labels already addressed for that original group. So we could easily forward those to you. But we went through the same process that the Santa Clara County Fire utilized by actually inviting people to participate in the process.
Yes.
and not using Nextdoor. Nextdoor might be a little bit wild to use, but basically that is an opportunity, of course, but I don't know that I would use it, suggest using it.
Okay.
My feedback.
Okay. Good. Very good. Okay.
Give you another little tidbit on Nextdoor. County Fire has an agency county-wide account. Nonprofits like Fire Safe Council were not approved to do Nextdoor. Nextdoor is sorted by neighborhoods, even smaller than zip codes. And the PIO over at County Fire that's helped us on other projects, she's able to limit it down to the neighborhoods that you want it posted in their Nextdoor group. So that's one way that you can target the people who represent the demographic the geographic area that you're looking for. So I suspect that we could get some support from County Fire if we give them a list of neighborhoods that you want to hear from that's within your town boundaries and your unincorporated boundaries. So there are ways to really narrow that down to target, the people that you need to hear from because they're your resident stakeholders.
And I'd be happy to look into that with our Public and Information Affairs Office. And if that capability exists, we'd be happy to support the district with that.
Referring to Louisa, she really helped us with that on the Highway 17 neighborhood. So she knows how that works in particular.
Okay, thanks, Eugenia. Yeah, we can take a look at that.
Great.
This is Denise. We also have administrative abilities, an account on ours in Los Altos Hills. So Sarah, I think, has been able to get pretty specific around that. We have the 58 neighborhoods that are identified. So another thing that had popped up, one of the other resources, and that's Eugenia being on this call, we have had the HIZs, the home ignition zone inspections. And I wanted to send out an email thanking people for utilizing that, and then asking if they would like to be on an email mailing list for information that's about the district. But that might be a place, if they say yes, then we can use those people in a database also, because they've used a service of the district. We also have chipping program that we put into electronic format. We can ask the same thing of people who have used district chipping program things possibly too. Depending on privacy, I'm not sure.
I think that's great.
Thank you,
Denise. Absolutely, Denise, use it. I think it's great.
Terrific. Helpful input here. Okay. So we will use the next few days to develop a whole methodology for the survey and have some survey questions to review for next meeting and get some input on that and further expand and really get a good survey template ready for consideration here. So we want to be ready in mid-September to send it out as soon as the full commission has a chance to review and approve.
Right.
Can I ask?
So what are we doing on the 13th of August then? What's your goal on the 13th of August? A week from now, you said, 8/13.
Yes. Thank you. So Commissioner Price, what we would want to do is further refine the scope if needed. We would focus on the survey as well as start finessing this list of stakeholders and community members who we'd like to have participate in the survey.
All right.
And really what we want to do is start to get a good written document that we can give to the full commission so that they can review it and approve our process moving forward.
Right. That was one of the advantages of having the initial meetings with the external stakeholders, that we had the full commission there. And so I would like to certainly encourage their level of participation. It was very important to keep the full commission informed, not just having 2 or 3 of us giving our 2 cents, you know, but basically seeing so they're participating in the whole process. Thanks.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So to clarify that, the strategic plan meetings that are after the 15th would be full commission meetings, and we would agendize those as such.
There'll be special meetings, Jay, is that what you'll call those? Yeah.
But with the full commission invited, because they need to be there, then it would be special meetings of those dates that we will, October 1st and October, October.
I think it's the 27th.
27.
Yeah, and those will be publicly noticed as well, since it will be a gathering of the entire commission, or at least a quorum.
Right.
I just had another thing occur to me that I'm gonna throw out, and you can stick it under whichever agenda item it belongs. If you did this 5 years ago, that was 2015. The CWPP came out in 2016. And is there anywhere in here that you've targeted first adopting that by the town of Los Altos Hills? And second of all, updating the annex, because those annexes and the CWPP were put together before the Loma fire and before the North Bay fires. So what we're finding when we're helping other towns and other areas with their annexes is that they're often out of date now, because we know quite a bit more than we did back in 2016 when all those community meetings happened to build those annexes and to build that countywide plan.
Can I speak to that? So the Los Altos Hills County Fire District Board of Directors adopted the CWPP Annex 4 revised June 19th of 2018. So we're right at an annual now. And part of our task is going to be to have the annual review of the CWPP and revise it based upon the recent events in fire science. That's going to be really important. So we've already had a year working with the CWPP as an adopted document in the district. In addition, Captain Gluhan wrote an addendum to the Annex 4, which is much more specific to the residents as to what they can do. And it's really based on fire science, topography, property hygiene, vegetation management, weather conditions, and neighborhood resiliency and individual resiliency. And we would want to review that and bring that up to date. So that's going to be one of the major features of the CWPP. The other thing that's occurring right now with the district is we're starting to look very seriously at GIS implementation, data collection and management and integration. And in doing that, that's going to be one of the major thrusts of the strategic plan, is to address the technology tools available and make sure that the district is starting to pay attention and has a plan for spending for strategic alignment of those areas for GIS tracking.
Well, I would definitely encourage that, and you'll be very timely. One of the current projects that Santa Clara County Fire Safe Council is working in partnership with County Fire and CAL FIRE is a geodatabase mapping all the priorities and intended projects in the CWVP in all of the annexes to help stakeholders create partnerships to become more efficient and to really increase the connectivity between their projects and their fuel breaks and their escape routes. So I would strongly encourage that mapping feature, that GIS feature, to help you stay current with your neighboring annexes so that we can work together and really get economy of scale going on projects.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay. Any other specific comment with regard to preparation for next week's meeting? Let's see.
I'd like to throw out a question, and that is from the group that's convened right now Do they have any major topics they'd like to see the survey address?
Yeah.
Is that a question for the public or for the commissioners?
Anyone who wants to, I think Eugenia and I just referred to CWPP updating it, which is an annual program anyway, and GIS, but for the public and for the, so when we start to formulate these questions, we're on the right topics. So anybody comment?
This is Drew. I have a comment. It's hard trying to click on things and think at the same time. I apologize. The question that I have is whether we should have on the survey is, I know out here, I know for the public that oftentimes the people think they need to call Los Altos Police as an example. And instead, you know, if I see it next door, I say, no, you need to call West Valley Station, Sheriff's Department, blah, blah, blah. I think in the situation of the fire district that I think you've done a good job of building that community awareness of where you go, but maybe keep working on it, because it's just kind of interesting how people kind of check out as to who do I call, and you know, and even if there's some simple maybe you've already done this, but like a wallet card you can mail out to the neighborhood, or they can download from your website or something like that for the critical numbers they could paste on the refrigerator. I know you've done, you know, when Mike was around, I think we had some things, and I, you know, not totally up to speed on all the different materials you have, but all of that stuff really helps when things are hopping and jumping and you just, you know, you need to call somebody, but you know, the average citizen doesn't really have it foremost in the mind, like a lot of us who volunteer for these kinds of things. Just a thought.
Let me just make a comment that I think for the next meeting, we should definitely, or those of us, Janice and Roger and I, should go back and evaluate the 5-year strategic plan through 2020. And are there any gaps or things that we haven't furnished or finished at this juncture? For example, the goal number 5 was to maintain awareness of current and future knowledge of technologies that affect our overall mission. And I think that that fits in nicely with all this updating for the wildland urban interface with CWPP and the annex, which is going to be, you know, evolved and renewed periodically. So we want to just make sure that that's always kept in the forefront. But I bet most citizens don't know too much about it, okay? And it may be on our website, and it may be, we may have addressed all that stuff and put it up there, but I bet not too many people go to the website. I just have a feeling that's underutilized, but maybe you would know that by the number of hits, and we should basically do an analysis on what that website is producing in terms of traffic would be very helpful. So basically, Roger, does that sound reasonable to look at what our past work has accomplished? And
I think
then,
that would be a big help for our next week meet. If we do it before next week's meeting, we can sort of bring that in. And
yeah, definitely, I agree. Yeah. And then basically the next meeting, so we're going to discuss, I guess, informed input from meeting number 1, if I'm following this correctly according to the work plan, and then summarize the public input from meeting number 1. Mm-hmm. And so we've heard a few things from our public that have been there. And then I certainly think that the work that Captain Gluhan is performing right now is fantastic in terms of being able to assess that going forward and meeting the needs of our residents. Since we're no longer doing the tree program, all the other hygiene and the escape route and the pathway work that's being done on Page Mill, that's all very important. That needs to somehow be evaluated and communicated to the residents. And then basically, the list of stakeholders, we can provide that to you also. I will make sure you get a copy of that list that I have from before. So is there anything else?
Yes, Commissioner Price, I want to mention to you, if you look on your agenda, item 2A.
Hold on a minute.
Will help us very much.
Okay, 2A. Here we go. Okay, 2A.
It says build and from the 2015-2020 strategic plan structure.
What am I looking at? 2A?
On the agenda.
I have attachment 5. And then what's the agenda? Hold on a moment. Oh, I'm sorry, Jay. I probably have it sitting here somewhere, but don't find it. My finger's on it.
Okay.
Was that in the packet that went out today?
Yeah, it's the agenda. Let me just read it to you.
Go ahead.
It says.
Okay, wait a minute. I got it. Hold on a sec. Let's see. Oh, maybe I don't. Go ahead. Read it to me.
So the agenda says that one of the things we're to do is to build and streamline from the 2015-2020 strategic plan structure.
Okay, good. I do not have that agenda handy, so basically, thanks.
Okay, so if you and Roger and Janice go back and talk about what were accomplished, that would be really helpful, because we need to know, we need to build on that 5-year plan that we currently have and streamline it to go forward.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks.
Okay, also look at attachment 3, which is the part, forward-looking community resiliency part. That really shows what the programs are right now. And then the bottom are the functions that support those programs. So these are 2 important features for assessing where we are now and then where we're going to go.
Oh, on that one. Okay, I have that one. Hold on a sec. Yes, okay, I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's attachment 3, right? You're talking about?
Yeah, so that's really a picture of what the strategic plan has accomplished to date.
Yes, okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can find it, good. Oh, yeah, I got it, okay.
And then it shows
you very good.
The functions that support those programs.
Right, that's perfect. Okay.
Okay. All right.
So let me add a comment. We have, within the existing strategic plan, we have 5 goals, and each goal has its own set of objectives. And I think it will be important for the full commission to do a review of the progress of each of the goals. So I think we would like that exercise to be part of the full commission activity when they meet in October. And we will find that many of these objectives have been accomplished, as has been pointed out, which is excellent. And what we will want to do is develop a new set of goals that will be our work plan going forward for the next 2 years. So I think we want to, at the next meeting, really have a good sense of all the activities that will be done in the commission, the meetings that are scheduled for the commission to develop the next plan. And so what we can do is bring a document for you to review and make sure that that's clear, all the different steps. And then the second part of the next meeting will really be to work on the approach with the survey, because that'll be an important tool for us. Okay. Any other comments or questions at this point before we wrap up?
Just make a suggestion. I received 3 different packets today in the mail, in the email. So the next one, if you could make sure, like just right now, we're going through this thing, attachment 2, attachment 3, somehow make them sequential so we can follow it easier. I am overloaded with paper, quite frankly. So plus this and a few other things we're working on here. So good, if you could do that, that'd be helpful. Thanks a million.
Yes, of course. Very good. Great.
Okay, good.
All right. Well, let me just announce again, our second subcommittee meeting is next Thursday, August 13th at 1:30 p.m. And we will certainly send the notice out wide and far again. And we will look forward to convening in a week, and we have our work cut out for us. Any last comments or questions from the subcommittee?
No.
Good, okay.
Thank you.
General Manager Logan, any last comments, questions?
No, just to thank everyone for their time and their perseverance and comments today. And thank you, Marcy, great job. Thank you for facilitating this. And thank you to Sarah, who's our logistics chief.
Yes, very good. Okay, well, terrific. Well, we will sign off. Many thanks. Everyone stay safe and healthy. And we look forward to seeing you again in a week.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Night. Thank you, everybody.